You dumb, beautiful fucker.
Who wants to be in America's slash fic with Abraham Lincoln?
Louisiana Purchase, that's a name.
You need to really get off my balls, okay? I'm gonna kick your ass.
Also, why was Michelangelo so stinky? Ew.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 204 of the AllYouCanHear podcast. I'll be your host today, Patrick. And joining me today are my three cavorting co-hosts.
It's Jonathan.
Flying like a bird, Captain Colt.
It's Wenzel.
This week, we'll be taking just a little bit of a break from our overall kaiju oeuvre for the month. And we talk about another equally big concept. And that's the second installment in Phase 4 in MCU. And that's the FALCON the Winter Soldier. And today we'll be discussing episode 1 in the 6-part series. And of course, be known, we'll be discussing the first episode in detail and with spoilers. So if you haven't got a chance to see it yet, come back and then talk to us.
Most likely spoilers for like past MCU things overall.
Maybe.
It's probably not a great place to start if somehow this is the first thing you've ever seen in the MCU. But if this does happen to be your first thing, then congratulations.
At a weird spot. A very weird spot.
But like I said, we talked about Falcon the Winter Soldier, which takes place 6 months after the end of Avengers Endgame, which means it takes place after WandaVision, but before Spider-Man Far From Home. And a very convoluted timeline of the MCU right now.
And I can bet it's only going to get more confusing when the next Spider-Man movie comes out.
In Doctor Strange.
Oh,
yes.
God. I'm ready for it.
But yeah, there's not a lot of magic and hoodoo in this one. It's very considerably down to earth compared to WandaVision with a lot of magic and like reality warping. But this features Sam Wilson, a.k.a. the Falcon, as he's sort of transitioning into this new role outside of the Avengers, but also with this inheritance. Like he was bestowed the unbreakable shield of Captain America at the end of Endgame, and he's sort of wrestling with the idea of what to do with this new mantle and its legacy. And of course, we also have the co-lead Bucky Barnes, the former Winter Soldier, as he sort of wrestles with making amends what he did as an amnesiac government weapon for a lot of evil people, and how does he make amends with that. And sort of in a larger scope, how the country of America MCU is dealing with the loss of its sort of symbolic hero and Captain America. But just sort of to ease us into it, what was your basic feelings about the first episode?
I thought it was pretty good. It felt like an episode that was definitely setting up something bigger. It had some slow moments, but it also had some really good action moments. Like the first, I want to say 15, 20 minutes was all Captain Falcon related.
No, it's the Falcon. He's
whatever,
not Captain.
dude. Captain Falco from Star Fox. It was pretty cool.
It was cool. That was pretty cool. It was just so funny though, because like the way he was coordinating with the U.S. military, it's like, okay, we see you, Marvel. We know about your contract.
Yeah, I know. Military bad. Yes, we all think this. Everyone here think military bad, but explosion look cool on TV.
It's not just military bad. There's more. I don't know. Propaganda. It's propaganda.
I mean, look, like Colt said, everybody here is obviously realizing the military-industrial complex has a lot of dark and heavy baggage to it. Like, it can also be like, see, that is bad, but also like enjoy the action from it. Two things can occupy your mind simultaneously.
It's like that was like whenever he got into the plane, that was pretty sick.
Yeah, the way I didn't realize how flexible his wings were.
How versatile they are.
Yeah,
pretty good. Yeah. Sick. Especially how useful Red Wing is. That's pretty much his little pet, and I love him, even though he doesn't really have he doesn't talk or anything.
Not yet. He made the series is still young. He still could get a wisecracking attitude.
I just remembered, is the main guy from the very beginning that was doing the whole hostage thing, is that Batroc?
Yeah, that's Batroc the Leaper from last seen in Captain America: The Winter Soldier, and the first 15, 20 minutes of that.
Is that him? Yeah, man, that's weird. And he's still alive, as we can tell, because there's a little scene where the helicopter blows up, but he jumps out last second.
So Marvel showing some restraint about not killing their
villains
off.
Of all the villains to not kill off, why him? I mean, he could be really relevant later, but like Killmonger, Ultron, you had all these other villains who had more character to them, especially Killmonger.
Well, I think they realized, like, oh, we've been making some mistakes. We're going to rectify this by we're not killing any more bad guys.
It could be the
starting
next
with Batroc. He's the tip of the spear.
No,
Yeah, because
not you, Louis. I think.
I mean, they made. They're still regretting the day they killed off Ronan.
Yeah,
the most compelling villain we've ever had.
We have one giant honk with a hammer. We need another.
I don't know about that.
But make them blue with really chunky
that
mascara.
Was chunky, yeah. It was.
And
it was
eyeliner.
like a man. It was like
It was like curdled.
Yeah, it was man. Weird texture. But anyway, back to this. Yeah, that first 20 minutes is pretty sick. It like Colt said, it's a first episode. A lot of setup. But we get into some really interesting conversations, at least.
Oh yeah, we see some pretty cool shit conversation-wise with Bucky later in the episode. It just the way whenever he was a Hydra person, that scene was pretty fucked up.
And then it turns out that the guy he just killed was Yuri's son, or what's his name, Yuri? Yuri's son. I was like, fuck.
I think it was Yuri.
Also, the very beginning, whenever the plane scene's happening, did anybody else feel it was like more violent than usual? Like we saw that guy get shot.
But yeah, Sam killed a ton of people. Like he killed a ton of people.
Yeah, like they.
Here's the thing.
Fucking death
like
galore.
it's really weird.
Yeah,
Spider-Man. It's like Spider-Man can't kill people, but if it's like anybody within the sector of Captain America, the Winter Soldier, Black Widow, it's like killing's fine. A-okay.
But yeah, there definitely seems like a big increase in at least a body count. It's not like a messily dismembered. I mean, later on, Falcon pulls a Steve and like yeets somebody through a airplane propeller, and they just get like turned into salsa.
The helicopters were all drones. I'm sorry, Jonathan. The helicopters were all drones. All the guys that got flung out of the plane all had parachutes. They're fine.
It's like at the end of Freddy Got Fingered, where they throw the kid in the plane propellers, but they had to add in the kid saying, "I'm okay, Dad," so they didn't get an NC-17 rating. Even though he gets thrown into propellers and sprays an audience with blood.
Just like that. I really enjoyed the show. I definitely could tell like this is drastically different from WandaVision because like there's 6 episodes this series, so they're going to take a little bit more time. And plus, every episode's an hour, so they couldn't drop us 2 because that'd be literally a third of the series out of the way. But I did enjoy it. I feel like Winslow said they had a lot of neat conversation pieces. Especially this one was like how the government reacts. It sort of takes care of the people who served it. Sort of like how African Americans are treated within a larger financial system, and like some really interesting points, and also fleshing out how the world works now that the blip and the snap had happened, and everything's trying to like fall back into normal processes. Which is like if something that happened in real life, it's like how do you manage that?
Like how do what I'm trying to think like over 1 billion people just randomly pop up after 5 years of not being there, and then it's like how do you manage it? How does the government, the world do that, deal with that? And then also Bucky, how like okay, he was a Hydra agent, then he became a hero that pretty much saved the universe, like, okay, he got pardoned, but like, how is he supposed to deal with like, what does that look like? That situation. So I think we got some neat stuff. Man, I was definitely. Don't get me wrong. I want to see them together. More. The show is called The fucking Falcon Winter Soldier, Wenzel. But like, I was really interested in the Falcon situation because that just seems really sad.
So we'll touch on that, but Jonathan, wrap this up. What was your sort of initial thoughts coming out of it?
Kind of along the same lines y'all have been. It's kind of hard to judge it right now. Like Colt said, it's just a lot of setup. Nothing that was like really offensive. There were some things that kind of irked me, but it's more just like personal things than I guess any sort of criticism. But we'll get into that as we start talking about it.
Okay. But so like getting into the breakdown of the show proper, we had sort of this like very pensive moment with Falcon as he sort of like gets ready for the press conference we'll be in later on the show, where he basically sort of addressing his standing as sort of Captain America's like protege, his sort of like successor, and then we see a flashback of him, in the airspace above Libya, trying to retrieve that kidnapped officer, in sort of combating George S. Batroc, the French Canadian military terrorist.
What's his first name?
Them French Canadians.
I thought it was Louis. So when I said Louis earlier in the episode, if people hear that, now you know why I said it, because I thought his name was Louis Batroc. I don't know.
But it is funny because I think the character, because the actor's name is Georges St. Pierre, and the Batroc has the same first name as his actor, which I thought was neat.
The casting call. What's your first name?
Yeah, we got him.
Georges. You're hired.
Got him. It's like, also, can you do like really cool flippy jumpy stuff? It just so happens I can.
Wow, serendipity.
And while Sam is in the air, sort of like fighting all these terrorists and like
Killing the fuck out of them?
Yeah, killing the fuck out of them. Just yeeting them out of planes, throwing them into canyon walls. He's getting information relayed to him to a new character named Joaquin Torres, played by Danny Ramirez, and who's sort of like this young officer in the army. And we'll get into his character later, but he's going to have a big role going forward in the show. But we already established him. He's a new sort of frontline character in the series. Man, we already talked a little bit before, but like that opening act scene was pretty slick. Him zipping in the air and just seeing, like you said, how like versatile his wings are. I always thought it was cool when he can turn his wings into a shield.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Oh, like I guess he doesn't have his sort of like guns in his wings anymore, because what in Civil War, and so then like he had like these guns like he could pull out of his wings and fire, and they kind of snap back. But I guess he also upgraded Red Wing, his
and a laser,
really like missiles and mini Gatling guns. So they retrieved the missing officer, and he sort of gets debriefed by Torres and like to this like local Libyan sort of air market.
No, it was Tunisia.
Excuse me.
Yeah, I think Wenzel's right.
I keep thinking because they're on the border of Libya, and there's like
they don't want to get into Libyan airspace.
And he sort of gets debriefed and sort of. He breaks news about this sort of organization that people call the Flag Smashers, or sort of like trying to break down normal national barriers and sort of create like a world without a sort of national oversight, which is sort of making sense with like that's one of the big like post-snap realities for the MCU, is that because like half the world's population disappeared, like there's a lot of like shifting like alliances and political borders, and like general overall international diplomacy is just kind of a shit show because of all of that. And so like a lot of national politics is very tenuous right now. So having like superheroes zip around, it would make things even more fraught with danger. And then we cut to Sam at his press conference, where he turns over Captain America's shield to be a permanent fixture in the Smithsonian, basically saying like no one is quite ready to assume this role yet. It's better left in the past till we can figure out on our own what we want to do. And then we see Don Cheadle coming back as James Rhodes, aka War Machine, to sort of like to talk with Sam about like what are we going to do now? Everything's weird and different. Which I don't know how much of a he'll play in this series, but obviously we know he's going to come back for his own show sometime in the future. And plus they had like a really cool sort of friendship in Infinity War, right?
Yeah, because they're both. Rhodes was in the Air Force, and I want to say Sam was in. He was in the military, but I don't know if he was.
He's in the Air Force.
Yeah, because the wings were part of an experimental program. Okay, yeah, he was in the Air Force too. So they kind of have like some kind of like
camaraderie there.
Yeah,
I think it was cool. Like I didn't know if they would sort of jump into Sam being Captain America right away, or like, and then just sort of deal with like sort of the shit show that would probably come of it. It's like, oh, there's a new Captain America. I don't like this. Because that was sort of a lot of Nick Spencer's run as the writer of Captain America, where Sam Wilson became Captain America. Like, so how he assumed the mantle, and there's like obviously a giant political fallout. People's like, well, I don't like this guy as my Captain America, because literally the first volume of his run as writer was called "Not My Captain America," where people sort of reacting to obviously a black man being Captain America.
Yeah, I was about to say most probably people would be incredibly fucking racist
in real life too.
Well, and also too, they I think it's even like the first like couple lines of the show where Falcon is kind of flashing back to something Steve said to him, where he was like, "Oh, how does the shield feel?" And Falcon said, "It feels like it belongs to someone else." So I guess they'll either play with the fact that him stepping into that role, or hell, might just stay Falcon and he just does his own thing, which would be cool too.
And then we cut to a little later, Bucky sort of like reminiscing, having like a nightmare of like his time as like a Hydra weapon. Basically, sometime in the not so distant past, it seems like he broke into a hotel to kill like a high-ranking figure, and of course the carnage a bystander who's in the wrong place at the wrong time gets eliminated because he saw him kill this political figure, and then he has to go. He's going through therapy basically. It's like, hey, we went through a lot of bullshit over the last 90 years. Let's try to unpack that.
Yeah, which that therapist was kind of an asshole.
Yeah, it's a very aggressive therapy,
and like therapy and therapists are supposed to challenge you. Like, I mean, you can't keep shit bottled up. You have to let it out. You have to work on yourself. That's why they call it self-care. But at the same time, it's like, I'm like, can you not?
Because, like, I guess this is really the first time he's dealing with a lot of that, because we see in Winter Soldier he's trying to get his memory back, and then he has like this moment where he goes back in suspended animation after after Civil War, and then when he sort of relocated to Wakanda, so he hasn't really had a lot of time to sort of sit and figure his shit out. But it also seems like he's trying to make amends as well. It's like basically taking down the people non-lethally that he's helped propped up through Hydra regimes, but also, as we saw with Yuri Nakajima, trying to make amends to the people he's killed, because the man he killed at that hotel attack was this older Japanese man's son, and without letting him know that he's like, oh, by the way, I killed your son. So like trying to like better this very old man's life in sort of his twilight years.
Yeah, and I really like this old man, especially when they're like at the little diner, and he's like, "Hey, are you single? Take this guy out on a date." and she's like hella into it too. She's like, "Hell yeah,
okay, I'll take this like 5-second date." Oh, and I will say, before they worked in that this older man was the son of a man he'd killed, I thought it was like the old man version of the Japanese guy from the Howling Commandos.
Oh.
But I guess that might be too much of a stretch, but that was my first thought.
Too much of a deep cut.
And plus, like, we didn't mention it, but like, there's definitely this implication that not only is Steve Rogers retired as Captain America, they kind of danced around he might have passed on. At least that's the impression I got from like the tone of the conference.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I think he went to the moon, like that one guy said.
Steve Rogers is the Watcher, even though they have already established who the Watcher is.
Wait a minute. Holy shit. What if that is based a little bit on truth? Because something happens in WandaVision. I don't know if I could say it right now.
Probably not, because present company may not have finished WandaVision yet.
I have a question when it comes to what is original Captain America's name?
Steve
again?
Rogers.
Steve Rogers. When he went back, what made him start aging?
Because what he did was he came back to our timeline, but he went back all the way to when he would have been frozen, but instead he wasn't frozen, so he pretty much lived out the 20th century into the 21st. So he aged.
Okay. So I never watched the first Captain America. When was he unfrozen?
He was
again?
unfrozen 2012
I
or
guess
something.
2011. I guess approximate to when the movie came out.
Oh, okay. That makes
But-
sense.
Because I guess that the ice, kept him young. In the comics, like his serum kept him young, but I guess they didn't really super translate that to the movie verse.
Yeah, I was about to say, because technically by the time he lives out through his life, right? Up until the point where he comes back at the end of Endgame to, give Sam the shield. That means he would still be hundreds of years old, or over 100 years old. So, and that would make sense if the serum, was able to keep him alive like that too.
Because what they don't tell you is the secret to the super serum is formaldehyde.
Yep. It's just a brown, stinky liquid they fill you up of.
All right, let's calm down, anti-vaxxers. They're not anti-vaxxers, if anybody's listening.
And also, we get sort of a insight to Sam's life, because he goes back to his home in Louisiana.
Which when he was driving to the shipyard, that music that was playing was slapping.
It was good. And so we're introduced to Sam's family. We see his sister Sarah and her two sons working in a shipyard, because you find out that both of their parents owned a fishing boat, which they used to sort of the catch and sell fish, and sort of their struggles of keeping the family business afloat and the time that Sam's been away. Although I have to say, I got a pretty good laugh when his nephews ran up and said, "Uncle Sam."
Oh
Okay.
my God.
Did y'all not catch that?
That's why his sister did the little salute, because, he was in the military, but also to be like, Uncle Sam,
I just now understood that. Okay.
Yeah.
Whenever Pat brought it up, I didn't catch it when I was watching it, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So, I thought that was a funny bit. I thought it was funny. Somebody made it like, "Oh, that's hackneyed," or whatever. I thought I got a laugh.
I mean, I didn't notice it until you said it. So,
It was pretty funny. So basically, we're introduced like his sort of their little fishing community. It's really, and plus I think like this is one of the stronger moments of sort of the grounded content of the show is him dealing with like, hey, I fought aliens and monsters and shit, but also like I can't keep my family's business from going under. How do I grapple with that? And so I think that was a nice little dramatic moment, sort of like their interaction, like both like happy reunion, but also kind of like the strained relationship they had since before he took off to become a hero.
yeah, and I think one of my favorite lines from their sort of exchange when they're talking about whether or not to sell the boat or not was when she was like, I forget how it's worded, but she, more or less she basically says, "I've already come to terms with this. Don't give me hope," sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Because it's just going to make everything, like when it does fall through, or when / you know what I'm trying to say.
And plus, like I think that's an interesting moment. Like it's easy for him to be like, "Oh, we should keep this," when he hasn't had to deal with like the day-to-day struggles of keeping it afloat, both metaphorically and literally.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean say he ran off to join the military. I mean, is both disrespectful to him and service people, because I mean,
They had reasons for doing what they did, but also like not to undercut any of the struggles that Sarah's character went through.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and then oh, sorry, Wenzel, you go.
No, I was just going to say also, he kind of fought like aliens and monsters, so
Yeah. Only thing I was going to add to that was there is military recruiters do target racial minority groups, because for a lot of ways that's their only way out of like big poverty situations.
Considering some of the implied casting choices for the show, I think that's going to be a very interesting source of conversation. We'll get into later, especially when we talk about some of the the characters scheduled to appear later on, especially like how like black people have been sort of used and abused by the U.S. military.
Yeah.
Something I was gonna say too is that it got super real too. Whenever Sam was talking about loans and stuff, I was like, oh shit, like man,
Because once he mentioned the loan, you know where it's going.
Yeah, it's like
if you're familiar with the banking system and how they've treated black people,
it's sort of like
even
how
to today.
he's like just sort of historically deprived of like financial like support and like basically denied them like access to business loans and like bigger things like that. Even just outright denial of banking services.
okay, like whenever freaking I'll just jump to it. Whenever they go to apply for the loan, and then the guy's like, "You don't have any income right here," and he's like, "That's because nobody exists. Like nobody was here for that time. Of course there was no income, you stupid piece of shit." And I was like, "Oh my god, that literally sounds like something a bank teller or a banker or whoever." Fucking somebody would just fucking say for some reason, be like, yeah, you were actually there's nothing right here. It's like, that's because I was fucking dead for years, literally dead. Of course there's nothing right there. Of course there's a gap.
And then the bitch has the fucking audacity to, after denying them the loan, to be like, "Can I get a picture with you, Mr. Falcon?"
He doesn't ask. He just pulls out his phone.
No.
and he takes
There was a second
selfie.
time whenever he asked, he's like, "Oh, it's okay if you say no, but can I get another picture of you with your wings out, with your hands out like wings?"
Oh,
And he's like,
okay.
"Are you serious?" It was so funny because it was so quick, and he literally says, "You can say no," and it's like he obviously didn't want him to say no. Like why would you even do that?
Yeah.
So like it's sort of, I think that's one of the stronger points about that scene is like how it jumps between like, oh, this real reality of like disparity, but also like the humor of celebrity. Because I think it was funny when the scene started. It's like, oh, where do I know you from? You're a Falcon. And it's like, oh, like he ran into like a sports star or like a movie star.
Like the first thing that was the first thing he mentioned. He was like, "Do you play for LSU?" And it's like, oh, that has some implications behind it too.
Yeah. So I thought that was a really good scene, and plus like we kind of get a behind the scenes of like maybe how being an Avenger works. Like, do they get paid? Like, because you assume like when he was like actively involved with Avengers, like was he getting like a paycheck? Was he living on the Avengers compound and just like all of his expenses taken care of? Like, how does being a superhero count as a regular job?
Yeah, like I imagine with some of the Avengers that are more tied with the military and the Department of Defense, I imagine they probably get some sort of stipend.
Mm-hmm.
But like like Tony Stark, I mean he and a lot of the other ones in the private sector, I mean they sort of make their own money. But yeah, it is like it brought up something that you don't really think about, the logistics of where do they get, who signs their paychecks?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say because I remember, I can't remember if they said this, but I know Tony paid for a lot of stuff, like because he was a billionaire, so he could
He
pay
used a
for
bankroller for everything essentially.
Yeah, so he paid for a lot of stuff. So I don't know how that works too. I don't know. It was like, I'm trying to think because it was like, man, I don't know. That whole scene was really good and really real because like she was his sister while everybody was dead. She had to take care of the her children on her own, and
her business too,
and the business. And it was really sad because there was a moment whenever Falcon was talking to Rhodey back earlier. He was talking about like how when his nephews were just tiny babies last time he saw them, but then once he got snapped and then he got blipped, he comes back and to see they're old, they're so much older now. Like everybody's older, and it's just like, man, the implications of that is so sad.
I just want to know what the hell Pepper's doing with all of fucking Iron Man's money. What are you doing with that? You making vagina candles?
Okay.
it would be a great bit if Pepper Potts is essentially just Gwyneth Paltrow of the MCU. Like she's just turning all of Tony's billion to just like, here's this jade egg you put in your pussy that definitely won't give you toxic shock syndrome.
Jesus Christ. That would be character assassination.
I mean, they did they casted the person to play Ironheart, so I wonder if that will be addressed the Stark Industries.
I'm sure that'll come up more in probably like War Machine's series and the Ironheart series.
Yeah, because War Machine has to go do that stuff to collect Stark tech. Yeah, that makes sense.
Let's see, Bucky's date with the girl that his old friend set him up with, and how he has like just like her general like line of questioning that you would do to ask anybody on a date to sort of like suss them out. Hey, what do you do? What do you like? He realizes like how far removed he is from the world and how much he's lost. Because like Sam, they're both cut off from society in like a very almost death-like way for several years. So like in Bucky's case, he keeps popping in and out of history for like moments at a time, and this is the first time in almost a century he's got to have any sort of actual life.
Yeah, and then on top of that, just having like PTSD and
this massive trauma,
just all the trauma in all the world. Which, like with the previous scene, I liked this scene, but this is where I really noticed, and this is just me, probably, but the editing was super fucking weird in this show. In the sense of, like, it felt like even the more grounded scenes, like with Bucky and his date, or when Sam and his sister are talking on the bus, or I'm not on the bus, the boat. It's almost shot like an action scene in a lot of ways, or the way it's cut. There's a lot of really, really quick cuts. Shots only hold for like maybe like half a second. And like an example that really like sort of solidifies this is there's like the shot reverse shot with the date on the date between I forget her name, but Bucky and the waitress, and it goes like shot reverse shot back to I think it was the waitress, and like in like a second, literally, when like I don't know how to like really explain it. I talked with Pat about it before the show, but it just felt like they could have held on certain shots longer, especially some reaction shots. Mm-hmm. But it just seems like it was like, we're going to show you Bucky real quick and then cut back to
they could have held that for a little longer, just sort of to let the emotions of the moment sink in.
Yeah.
I don't know. Marvel, and was like, everything's an action shot.
And then with the Sam and his sister on the boat, a lot of it was handheld, and it was really shaky.
I guess they used a real boat, and I guess filmed on a real boat. Like, it wasn't a set, so like maybe the hand cam was all they could use. Maybe.
I mean, honestly, they could have used a Steadicam, but I mean, even then, like, I imagine like if you're filming on a boat, there's not much you could do with that.
Yeah.
But it did lead to like a lot of like it kind of feeling like the cinematography and editing feeling a different type of intense than what maybe the scene would require. But granted, that could just be me and my preference.
Because I told John I didn't really notice the editing in the show, so but obviously different people look and notice different things. But like, I would maybe if I went back and watched it, like paid it, because I watched it kind of halfway finishing my notes because John watched it after me. So maybe if I go back and watch it a third time, I might notice how quickly scenes shift. But I didn't notice that on my first blush with it.
I didn't notice it either.
Yeah,
I guess. I mean,
I didn't.
3 out of 4. 3-1. Jonathan, I guess it's time to reevaluate yourself and
apparently.
Were you moving? Were you shaking? Were you closing your eyes?
I did notice a lot of like emotion on the couch when we were just like zipping around.
What you didn't know was I was running in place the entire time.
Yeah, that's a little small fact about Jonathan, that they can only focus on something when they're gesturing wildly.
Yeah. However, if you saw me in person, realize, oh no, you don't move around at all.
Like we were talking earlier, like those shows, for being an hour long, it has a pretty brisk pace.
Yeah, like a lot of times with shows or movies, I'll happen to look at my phone to check the time and be like, oh God, it's got like an hour left or something. But I remember checking my phone at one point and being like, shit, this only got 10 minutes left.
Yes. Yeah.
And I say one of the sort of last parts of the episode was when we cut back to Joaquin Torres is in Amsterdam.
I think so.
It's because they were speaking German.
Switzerland.
Switzerland, excuse me. We see him sort of in this sort of meeting place of all these sort of young people because he had been keeping tabs online about the Flag Smasher group, one that's sort of trying to break down national barriers, that sort of thing. And basically, this is like this big sort of public gathering point for the group. And then he's sort of like, he's trying to like suss everybody out, but they're not really giving him much intel. But we see what appears to be a masked woman walk up, open up a duffel bag, and start handing out these masks, these black masks with a red handprint on them. And all the people in the square, they take and put on the mask, Torres included. And then all of a sudden, shit springs into action. Like just like fire alarms go off, people start screaming, and you see a man jump off a balcony, land on the ground with no like 2-story balcony, land on his feet, no problem, with 2 large bags.
Casually dressed as well.
Just like a regular dude, and he passes off the 2 bags to 2 other masked people. So like all these people are running around causing pandemonium, and the local law enforcement are just like, what the fuck is happening? And then Torres is like, he's just sort of wide-eyed, like, what the fuck is happening? And then we see Homeboy, who jumped out the window, see one of the Flag Smasher people getting roughed up by a cop, and he just like yeets that dude into like a lamppost.
It's like if he's Rock in the fucking Fast and Furious.
Just picks him up and throws him. So obviously he's enhanced in some capacity.
Check out our Fast and Furious files. Shameless plug.
Yeah, stay tuned for the next installment of Fast and Furious Files, where The Rock gets straight up superpowers. But anyway, Torres goes to confront this guy, and he just sort of slaps him around, and then does this crazy jerk where he flips up in the air and slams him back down and kicks him in the head.
The way he kicks him in the head, that's a stomp.
That was I thought his
he
face got
died.
crushed. Yeah, same. I thought he died. No, but then he, when he contacts Sam, he just sends him like a e-boy selfie of himself bruised up. Come on, man.
Like, it's like, I know I got my eyeball bone broken, but also check out this jawline.
Like seriously, the way he sent the picture, it was just so much vanity. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it.
It was like unintentionally, it looked like he was trying to like catch like a really good selfie. Because like he has this character like he's kind of like awkward, nerdy, like soldier guy. But so like he's like, oh yeah, check out this cool shiner I got from getting kicked in the head by a metahuman. Pretty sick, right?
He starts biting his bottom lip. Like,
Yes, right? Like, I can't do it because this is audio, but
But
unless.
And then Sam's like, this is pretty wild. And then his sister turns on the TV, and there's like a press conference that the U.S. government's like, even though we said we agree with Sam about, we should put the Captain America mantle to rest until we can find like a better person or just a better time. Or it's like, well, it was 2 days. We got ourselves this whole thing figured out.
It's like, fuck you, Sam.
So we have a.
Yeah, and it's fucking Casey Neistat from YouTube.
Yeah, because they announced that there's a new Captain America known as John Walker, who you may know from the comments as U.S. Agent. Because that's sort of implied with the his design, because you see he has the Captain America star, but it's like a stylized A.
Yeah.
So whether or not he's called U.S. Agent, that's who the character is. And he has this very sort of... That's a new, very similar costume to what Cap's worn in the past, and he has like this sort of like little wink to camera.
A more punchable face.
like Captain America was Captain America, but like he's like America's like poster boy or something. Like I don't know. I can't remember the phrase, but yeah.
I don't like the suit. I know it's like pretty similar to the original Captain America suit.
Okay,
but
here's where I get mad
ugly.
because I was really hoping that they would have stick to the U.S. agent suit design, which is black and red. But they do his usual Captain America suit design, which is that navy blue and red. And I'm like, oh, come on, do the black and red and call him U.S. agent. Like, shut up with the Captain America shit. Captain America's dead or something. I don't know.
No, he's jerking off in Florida.
There's 5 hours of TV left, so they may it may come back.
Yeah, he may get like yet another outfit. I mean, there's already some visual continuity between the original U.S. agent. Like he has the vertical stripes going across the chest. He has the large star on the right side of his chest. So like there is like nods to that original costume. Whether or not he'll get the black.
No, I
black
know
and
that.
red.
I know that. I'm talking about the colors. That's what pisses me off. The colors. The suit looks fine. Like, you know, like you said, the vertical strap or whatever you open, like that looks cool. That looks fine. I'm talking about the colors. If they change the colors to the preferable black, red, and white, that would look sick. But nah, we got this boy. We got this young man.
What I thought was funny is the actor who plays U.S. Agent, for lack of a better name, his name is Wyatt Russell. And what's funny is that he auditioned to be Captain America for the first Avenger, and he lost. So they brought him back to be Captain America's replacement.
That's good.
This is more so a bit for me and Jonathan and any wrestling fans out there. But if you look up a picture of Wyatt Russell, he looks like Hangman Adam Page's like twin.
Oh God! Hold on 1 second. Get the fuck out!
Right? Doesn't he look like Adam Page?
He does.
He's been in a lot of movies. Holy shit.
I've seen this guy before. I imagine he's played like generic white guy number 2 in a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
I was trying to look at what's the most recent thing he's been in. He was in Overlord and The Woman in the Window. That hasn't come out yet.
And the My Name Jeff movie.
He was
My
in
Name's
22
Jeff.
Jump Street. Cowboys versus Aliens. Come on. Yeah, because that's sort of the heads and tails of the show itself. But it's one of the last things I want to talk about, sort of like the characters to come. Like, we're introduced to quite a few so far, but there's still several characters that we have yet to see. Like, we know that Sharon Carter, a.k.a. Agent 13, who is in Winter Soldier and made a brief appearance in Civil War, she will return in a larger capacity for the show, because she showed up in a couple of the trailers. Baron Zemo, by Daniel Bruhl. He's a great actor outside of the MCU. And he will be coming back, reprising his role as Zemo, but definitely returning to a villainous role. And how exactly he connects to the Flag Smashers, we don't quite know yet. He has this purple mask, which is very exciting for comic fans.
Yeah.
Although I will say, there's been some speculations as, like, I guess to kind of explain why he's adopted this mask now and why it's purple. With some people theorizing that it's a reference to Thanos, because either he's sort of adopting this mask as a form of idolatry of Thanos or a symbol of the Avengers' greatest failures.
Or he could just be like, that Thanos guy, he had some good ideas.
Like I said, we don't really know anything about how he plays into the bigger puzzle of the show, but I love Daniel Bruhl as an actor, and I think he did a good job as Zemo, because while he was the bad guy in Civil War, I kind of feel like I don't say he wasn't bad, but I kind of feel like he seems like he's going to be even eviler in this one, ostensibly.
Yeah.
So
Honestly, I forgot about him. I had to look him up just now to figure out who exactly he was in Civil War, and I still don't
wait a
know.
minute.
And I've seen Civil War
You've
twice.
seen Civil War twice, and he's been shown in the trailers. How do you not know who he is?
I'm talking about, like, I don't remember his character.
His
in
character was
Civil War,
okay.
even
I'm going to
though-
explain it. Zemo was he was originally in the Sokovian military, but what happened was whenever the Age of Ultron movie happened and he lifted up Sokovia, the country, trying to make it a meteorite, his family ended up dying. And because of that, he holds a resentment towards the Avengers for not saving his family, so he wanted to tear them apart.
and since they didn't kill him at the end of Civil War, he's back to presumably fuck shit up some more.
Yeah.
I just don't I remember that vaguely, but I just don't remember him on
He was on
screen.
I mean, he was on
Which
like
is why
He was the bad guy.
I'm not doubting you. I don't remember him at all.
You see, Marvel, you should have given him the purple mask from the get-go. He would have stood out more.
Exactly. You're right.
I just hope they give him his sword, because they say folks need more swords.
I was going to say something to the Flag Smashers. Their whole goal is to remake the world the way it was before the blip. So him having the mask possibly being kind of like idolatry to Thanos and his ideas kind of makes sense if he wants to establish a world like that.
Well, on the subject of the Flag Smashers, we have a character named Carly Morgenthau, who is a gender swap version of Carl Morgenthau, a character known as the Flag Smasher. And for him, in the comics, he was a freedom fighter whose goal was to liberate Earth from the oppression of national rule, basically dissolve all borders. Earth is just like one big sort of landmass that we all sort of interact on. Harley Morgenthau is played by Erin Kellyman, who you might know as one of the characters from Solo. She played the masked sort of raider in Solo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember. Looked like a Destiny character.
Yeah.
If I remember right, the woman who brings the bag of masks, she has like, red kinky hair like Erin does. I'm thinking that was Carly because she's ostensibly the leader of the Flag Masters. Or I would assume that if, she's based off the character that they're getting the name of the organization from. We also have also get into Joaquin Torres's character. He's a fairly new character in the comics. He was introduced in 2014 in all new Captain America, where Sam Wilson took over as Cap. And essentially, plus gives a hint to what his character may be in the show, that Joaquin became the new Falcon in the comics. Because Joaquin Torres, he was a Mexican teenager who was kidnapped by this racist, terrorist supergroup called the Sons of the Serpent, who they like mixing people's DNA with animals and vampires to make monsters. And so Joaquin was kidnapped, injected with DNA from Sam Wilson's Falcon Red Wing, and making him to a bird-human hybrid. And then he was rescued by Sam, but unfortunately his condition was permanent, but sort of to show thanks for Sam helping him, he becomes the Falcon and sort of takes up that role and helps Sam. And he has a telepathic connection with Red Wing. He can fly, he can heal, also has slight vampire powers. He can drink blood.
Yeah, I'm looking at him. He looks sick. I really like this design.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people are very interested because, one, this character hasn't really got a lot of use outside of that run of the comics. So basically sort of establish this character as something bigger. And plus, he would be one of the few prominent Latino actors in the MCU at this point. I kind of doubt they're going to go with the whole Birdman hybrid for his character, though.
I am a monster!
Rory literally had bird talons and claws on his feet and feathers coming out of his arm.
And his eyes are just like a falcon. That is scary. Looks cool though. His suit does.
Yeah. So they might be a little bit more restrained with Torres in the show, but we'll see. There are a few characters that are announced for the show. We have Clay Bennett, who's playing Battlestar, who in the comics he was the best friend of John Walker, and they were both two former military soldiers, both poor young men, and they, after leaving the military, they joined this group called the Power Brokers, which sort of gave them superhuman ability, basically just heightened physical abilities like strength, stamina, speed, and all that. And he sort of took up the role of Bucky, and while John Walker became Captain America, but modern writers, they made a point to address the racism of that because Buck was a racial epithet used against black people in the past. So they brought that up in the story. That's why they changed his name to Battlestar. So, and I think that will be a bigger part of the sort of exploitation of the U.S. military on African Americans, which leads me to another character. It's pretty heavily theorized that Isaiah Bradley will be a character on the show. And for those who don't know who he is, he basically was a black soldier in the U.S. military in the comics who was given a defective serum based off Captain America's superhuman serum. While it gave him tremendous physical abilities, it sort of was, like I said, defective, so it really burned out his body and left him with brain damage. So he's sort of this almost vegetative person, even though he gave essentially his life and his body for the U.S. military, and they sort of burned him up. And his character was based directly off the very deplorable Tuskegee study,
the syphilis experiment,
and Muhammad Ali, because with the Tuskegee study, in case you don't know, these poor black sharecroppers were injected with syphilis by the U.S. Health Agency to study how syphilis would grow on the body uncontained under the guise of free healthcare, which is just a hugely monstrous act that in U.S. history. And also with Muhammad Ali, how just years of being a prize fighter broke down his body and sustaining all these concussions sort of gave him mental damage. So basically those are two big things that influences that character. and it's believed that that's Carl Lumbly's character that he'll be playing in the show. And Carl Lumbly's just like very seasoned, older African American actor. He's been in a ton of stuff, so that's who a lot of people are speculating his character will be. And I think that's all of the characters that we're expected to see right now. There is Noah Mills. He's another actor that's projected to be in the show, but also, like Carl Lumbly, his character is being kept under wraps for the moment. And I don't quite know who he would play, though.
Interesting.
With all the characters that are planned to be in or expected at some point, sounds pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah. So I was going to say, what are some of your expectations or theories you expect to see or what you'd like to see from the show going forward?
I would like to see, if Bucky does get his new suit, I'd like to see a new suit for Bucky. I'd like to see what he looks like, happy. I'd like to see him smile.
It's like Sebastian Stan, you should smile more.
I just don't want him to be in pain anymore.
Wenzel?
You know, I just want Sam to get the shield. Just give him the shield. Like, stop with this bullshit. I don't know, man. I guess I want to see if they change this. If, like you said, we're gonna just use it. U.S. agent. I want to see if they call him U.S. agent, and then if they change his suit, because I do not like the suit colors. I want to see. I want to see more about, you know, like what does the mask represent? Why the purple? You know. And I want them to address those, you know, those issues that we've been discussing about how the U.S., the government, and the military has manipulated and exploited people of color, especially Black Americans, throughout history. I want them to address that, and I don't know. I mean, I'm really excited to see where that goes. But then also too, it's just like, I don't know, the whole contract they have with the military and how they depict them, that's gonna blow. But whatever.
Yeah, me and Pat talked about it before the show. Like, I'm really anxious on how they're going to do the whole flag smasher subplot, because like initially it sort of set off red flags in my mind of like they're going to turn them into, well, Antifa are the real fascists type of thing.
Yeah,
I'm scared they're going to go in that direction, but then they're also trying to do this critique of how American society, like just every institution, has just completely shat on marginalized groups, especially racial minorities.
Like, how do you criticize?
Like how do you? It's like there's going to be that cognitive dissonance there of how you deal with criticizing it on this end, but not on this end.
It's like, you know, we get paid by the military to, you know, to use their stuff and their resource, but also like military bad sometimes.
Yeah, like Pat said before the show, it's like they're probably going to just play with kid gloves when it comes to the military, which is unfortunate, but you know, what's you going to do?
Yeah.
But other than that, like, I'm just here for the ride, honestly. Y'all know more about like the comic stuff than I do, and I'm honestly just enjoying it for what it is.
I have a crackpot harebrained theory.
Let's hear it.
The odds of this happening, almost nothing. But it would be really funny if they just took this wild-ass swerve. Plus, it ties back into our overall kaiju theme for the month. Last episode, Zemo pulls out his trump card, and he wakens American Kaiju, which is this giant lizard monster that this guy was experimented to turn into. Basically, it's this giant God-looking monster with the American flag on his face and on his chest. Google American Kaiju right now.
What the shit?
I'm Googling it right now.
That would be absolutely insane. Like, if they just pull that out where the Falcon and the Winter Soldier are like, yeah, we're just going to have to fight a giant monster.
It looks... it looks awesome, but the American flag looks so out of place. Why is it there?
Because the guy who was experimented to turn into American Kaiju, his name is Todd Ziller.
No.
Yes.
No.
Todd Ziller.
That is dumb. That is stupid.
And he was a test subject, and it's another attempt to recreate the Captain America serum, but they went a little wonky with it because, you know, some bad guys got their fingers into that pie, and he became a giant kaiju.
Fuck it, I'll allow it.
I want it now.
And this is a fairly recent addition. I think he first appeared in 2015. So hell yeah, last episode, give us a fucking kaiju. because it's precedented in the comics.
Please.
Also, it'd be cool if some point, like, Bucky's walking down the street and then you see John Barenthal stabbing someone in the chest in the background. I just want it. The person being stabbed's a dirty cop, so it's good, okay?
Those little subplot in this show, because they kind of touch on it's like how about how soldiers are sort of left to rot after they expended their duty and are no longer useful to the U.S. military. You can have that sort of how do you segue a soldier to civilian life and just have John Berthal there, because I used to be a soldier and because of that he ended up killing people for right reasons, maybe depending on how you look at the Punisher. But also, quit holding out. Just give us John Bernthal back,
please. I just want him screaming some more. I've said this in the past many times.
He's very good at screaming. All right, I think that's all I have. Any sort of last thoughts before we wrap up for today?
All right. For me.
All right. So we all enjoyed it, the first episode, and I think it's easy to say that we will recommend this for anyone else who hasn't got a chance to watch it yet.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a easier pickup than WandaVision for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because it's definitely more in line with like the movies, and it feels and looks like the movies pretty closely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So once again, thank you all so much for listening today. You can follow us on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Spotify, and any RSS feed catcher out there. Be sure to like, rate, review, subscribe on all those platforms. Helps us out, keeps us high in the algorithm, and we appreciate you when you do that. You can follow us on our socials, on Twitter and Instagram, AYCH Podcast, on Letterboxd and Facebook at All You Can Hear, Twitch at twitch.tv/AllYouCanHear, and YouTube, which is also at All You Can Hear. Be sure to check out our spinoff show, Cajun Greatness, where me, Jonathan, Cannon, and Justin all talked about the wacky sci-fi romp of jiu-jitsu, where Nicolas Cage does martial arts in space, kind of. And lastly, you can follow me, Patrick, on Twitter and Instagram at John Lost His Name, and my art on Facebook at John Lost His Name Art.
My name's Jonathan. You can follow me at Twitter at JONIIBOI24 and JohnOwnSon12 on Letterboxd.
My name's Colt. Follow me on Twitter at ColtD00. Thank you.
I'm Wenzel. You can follow me on Twitter at Wenzel. You can follow my art Instagram at World of Wenzy. Thank you for listening. You can check out my link tree. I have links in there. Maybe links.
All right. Thank you all so much. Join us next week when we wrap up our month of Kaiju discussion with our breakdown of all the films in Legendary's Monsterverse. We'll be talking to you very soon.
Yeehaw.
Bye.